Welcome, welcome, outrageous one and all. Plenty of people in my life have wanted more gem content from me recently, so here's something I'm dying to share. When going through the top tier of my every gem song ranked video, people generally seem to agree with it, seeing great song after great song that resonated just as much in their minds as they did for me. But I've been told by multiple people that all screeched to a halt once they got to one particular song, right after I talked about the universally loved within the fandom, Destiny by the Stingers. And that was number 3.
Making it happen.
I knew it was a bit of an oddball pick to put We're Making It Happen in the top tier of the video for the standards of most Gem fans, let alone the highest ranked song by Gem and the Holograms full stop, and the number 3 on the list overall. But I found it noteworthy just how disbelieving several people were, even if my choices for spots number 1 and 2 showed that the Misfits are better. A few, I should say. Probably no more people than I can count on one hand made real comments to me directly that I can remember. But for a song which I love so strongly within the Gem song catalog, it seems strikingly odd that no one else was seeming to recall or mention anywhere the great aspects that I saw in it, to the point that I started making jokes about it in fan conversations, and making it the namesake in my own head for any kind of personal favorite artistic work that no one else seems to share. But, even despite this one hot take, folks have absolutely overwhelmed me with their positive comments about the ranking video, and I've made so many great conversations and new friends, especially as folks have said that discussing my thoughts on all 153 songs in the show has made them remember them fondly. So, I'm here to oblige on more Gem-related content. I proposed to some Discord friends the idea of making a video that's my particular defense and detailed review of We're Making It Happen, and they were all for it, which felt very nice to hear, and I'm looking to test my skills in analysis and critique some more. So, here we go with our video today. My effort to share all the details of why We're Making It Happen is a favorite for me. A beautiful, powerful, and emotionally resonant song that's underrated in the Gem canon in my view. In fact, for some further insight on this, I've invited a truly outrageous guest on, whom I admire for his entertaining content, great knowledge of performance and music theory, and as a very cool person in general. Myself and other Gem fans have gotten to know him through his YouTube series, A Middle-Aged Man Watches Gem and the Holograms, which is very amusing. A warm welcome to Mr. Andrew Eisen.
I've been privileged to talk music with many a Gem fan, and while Raina is the only one I've seen rank We're Making It Happen among her favorites, I've also never heard anyone mention the song among their least favorites. For most, it appears to be a middle-of-the-pack song, and considering big band music was decades out of mainstream popularity even back in the 80s when Gem and the Holograms premiered, that's not entirely surprising. More niche musical styles tend to be edged out of fans' favorites by modern pop, a genre that more easily accommodates the time constraints of each episode. Pop music is typified by uncomplicated chord progressions and song structure. This simplicity is one of the reasons they can be so catchy and memorable. By contrast, big band music is epitomized by lengthier songs with multiple sections, allowing individual members of a large ensemble to show off in solos, featured performers to strut their stuff, and audiences to Lindy hop across the dance floor.
Gem, for those of you who aren't aware, though I assume most of you are if you've gotten this far in the video, tells the story of musicians, and in keeping with that, has several music videos as interludes to progress the characters, show what they're feeling, or just to show off some excellent music and creative visuals. The song we're talking about today appears in the Season 2 episode Journey Through Time, and in this episode, Gem and the Holograms are forcibly transported back in time, relatable, to points in the previous centuries which are prime in terms of music being pioneered that they can be inspired by. There's a whole setup with Tech Rat, an ally of Eric Raymond and the Misfits, who want to get the edge on Gem and the Holograms, and so he creates a time machine, as you do to deal with your rivals.
Might say they're history, Eric.
Brilliant!
They see classical music in the making with Mozart, and he laughs just like he does in the movie Amadeus. And then, following that, they're sent to London in 1944 during some World War II air raids, and they're awestruck by the artistry of the Ben Tiller Orchestra, which they know of as a great legend in big band music. The orchestra they talk about here in Gem is an extremely subtle reference to the period when real-life musician Glenn Miller was stationed in London with his Glenn Miller Army Air Forces Orchestra. He was known for leading ensembles, both as a civilian in the previous decade and by 1944 as a major in the Allied forces entertaining the troops, playing swing music, which is a fusion between improvised jazz, rapidly risen as a cultural force since the beginning of the 20th century, and the music of traditional big band ensembles. In essence, white and black communities in the United States had developed very disparate music from each other as a result of decades of segregationist policies. As narrated in the BBC4 documentary The Swing Thing, quote, white music had developed from foxtrots and polkas, black music from Africa and the jazz of New Orleans. In the years following the First World War, what both audiences had in common was a thirst for fun, and that meant dancing. Jazz became the first truly original American art form. As my middle school band teacher described it, shout out to Ms. West, she turned me in the direction of some great sources for this video, improvisational jazz was very emotionally charged and fiery, and hotspots for it included New York, Chicago, and New Orleans as previously stated. In the words of jazz historian Dr. Emmett Price, describing its importance within black communities, quote, people sing because they can't vote. People play instruments because they don't have political power, social mobility, economic opportunities, a system of justice that was equal. Music played a practical, functional role, a method and means of expression and communication for people who felt ostracized and disenfranchised, end quote. By the 1920s, people who could provide something to dance to were in high demand, including playing atmospheric music for brothels and speakeasies. This was a strong factor in bringing the innovations of jazz to wider society, also being a time when recorded music was becoming extremely popular as an innovation. Louis Armstrong led the way in terms of improvisational jazz, with his talent for improvising entire melodies on stage, having been raised in an environment with loads of fellow improvisers around him, and he attracted massive audiences of both white and black patrons, becoming one of swing music's primary inspirations. In the words of famed documentarian Ken Burns, Armstrong, quote, single-handedly just about transformed jazz from an ensemble music into a soloist art, inventing what we call swing. In the early days of swing, they didn't call it swing, they called it orchestrated Armstrong, end quote. Yet another key pioneer of swing was Duke Ellington, described by modern jazz artist Wynton Marsalis as, quote, a tireless worker, just so comprehensive in his art, and created beautiful things under blistering criticism, always ascendant and never allowing himself to be condescended up to, end quote. And Marsalis went on to say of jazz musicians in general, quote, they all have that combination of soul and intelligence and a deep feeling for this country, and a deeper spiritual understanding of the nature of things in the real sense, end quote, and they weren't being blinded by the limits of their upbringings. The styles and historical importance of jazz are also given homage by Jem, with their song and music video for Jazz Has, also done there very creatively. The music made by artists such as the Count Basie Orchestra and Benny Goodman's seminal recorded performances at Carnegie Hall sold extremely well. Vocals were also popularized as a key element by singers such as Billie Holiday and Ella Fitzgerald. With all these elements, swing became what historians have described as the first major youth cultural movement in American history, a key form of escapism for teenagers during the Great Depression. Although there was increased visibility for many black artists within the popularity of swing, there was also undoubtedly co-opting the success within the genre by white orchestra directors against the black artists who predominantly wrote the music. Essayist Leena Saleh, writing for Advocates of Tomorrow, describes it this way, quote, African Americans introduced and developed swing music, yet white people were the ones to profit at the expense of black artists. As whites received more exposure on the radio, success for black bands became increasingly unattainable, which has been illustrated by the disproportion of top hits throughout a 10-year span. This discriminatory practice was masked by false notions of progress due to a slight increase in black representation, end quote. Those are some apt observations. White band and orchestra leaders built on the musical innovations which came before them in the swing craze, and several of them became huge celebrities through touring their swing performances around, including Benny Goodman, Tommy Dorsey, and of course, Glenn Miller. Though Miller's ensemble and music have much to celebrate about them, which we'll go into, it's important to recognize how white supremacist standards and lack of access to the largest platforms has left black musicians, whose influence stands tall on the innovations of swing, disproportionately left in obscurity and facing discrimination in what was given airtime. Glenn Miller gained huge popularity and financial success in the 1930s and early 40s with his civilian orchestra. The orchestra's rendition of the song Chattanooga Choo Choo, fun fact, was the first record ever to be given the gold designation by RCA Victor, having sold over 1 million copies by 1942. Once the United States entered World War II with the bombing of Pearl Harbor, Miller had a strong desire to be of service in the Allied war effort, but being in his late 30s by that time and needing to wear glasses, a liability in the military's eyes, heyo, he wasn't cut out for active duty. Following some basic training, he became director of bands for the Army Air Force's Technical Training Command stationed in North Carolina. He led several ensembles in this role, including a marching band. On May 24, 1944, General Dwight D. Eisenhower sent a cable to Washington, D.C. requesting Miller and the orchestra he was leading be transferred to England to provide entertainment for the troops. Eisenhower cited the Miller Organization as the, quote, only organization capable of performing the mission required, end quote, which was a monumental task given the plans for D-Day and other crucial battles. Once in England, Glenn Miller wrote in a letter to a friend that during a single month, quote, "We played at 35 different bases and during our spare time did 40 broadcasts," end quote. His Allied Expeditionary Forces band spent 18 hours a day recording and performing. He was of such renown by his military superiors that he was given a promotion to major on July 24th, 1944, and soon after, he was even invited to christen a B-17G bomber with the name of his famous song, Moonlight Serenade. This stationing of theirs, of course, is the setting Jem and the Holograms find the character analogs for in the Journey Through Time episode. So let's get an idea of how they portray it, and how it stacks up in its ensemble and technique in their performance of We're Making It Happen. Plus, what moments of character expression through the vocal delivery by Britta Phillips, and visual flair, since that's certainly an aspect the Jem videos have to offer, make me love this song the way I do. For a cartoon show with a limited scope and episode lengths, Jem does a brilliant job getting across the style and general components of the variety of swing music which Miller's orchestra performed. The members of Ben Tiller's orchestra are bemused at the idea of women being musicians, much less comprising an entire band, but they're more than willing to be persuaded, especially when Kimber offers on behalf of the Holograms to prove their outrageous skills if they're given the chance over the next half hour. We, as an audience, know of the musical skill the Holograms can bring, so we're instilled with the sense that they will prove themselves to the ensemble and get them to change their tune, pun intended, you know me.
Well, what do you think?
I think it's great, Kimber. I owe you an apology. You're a real talent.
Then we see them getting prepared to perform a show-stopping tune on stage for a crowd very shortly, and it's the song we're here to talk about. We're Making It Happen.
Welcome, everyone! Presenting the Ben Tiller Orchestra with our surprise guest, Jem and the Holograms!
As it opens, with that big band sound, we get one of the peppiest beats that any Hologram song has ever had to start off. With the horns giving it a nostalgic feel for the musicals made by MGM in the post-war period, representing and celebrating these music performances with beautiful choreographed dances and technicolor, more of which I'll get into soon. The Holograms, of course, wear period-accurate hats and suits provided by Synergy, and their slow walk up to the stage provides a sense of anticipation for the song we're about to get. What swing tends to provide, built on the improvisational jazz before it, is a sense of not only spontaneity, but togetherness. Miller's orchestra, of course, put their life and limb at risk to bring people together with uplifting music during the Blitz on London, so add in the poppy and more modern sounds of the Holograms, giving off their attitude of sharing our best qualities to help out and celebrate our values in tough circumstances. This song really shines, lifted up in my esteem by this lovely sense of camaraderie. Jem shares a hand-touching moment with an ensemble member as she sings the opening lyrics and he plays the trombone. Then we get a close-up for emphasis as she sings the titular lyric, and the pulse and toe-tapping increase as the four notes by the upright bass kick the song into a higher gear.
You and me, helping people, together we're making it happen. On, stemming the tide.
And yet, with all that, the music is not bombastic. It lets both the dancing and the spirit of the participants speak for itself. They start to share some patriotic imagery, which, when reminded of the time we're in, makes sense. Patriotism used to energize fighting against the Nazis and the overall Axis powers, defeating fascism in Europe. They sing lyrics that have a nice bit of poetry to them, like,
We're adding new notes to those red, white, and blue notes.
also paraphrasing the immortal lyric of, "It don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing."
Don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. Do-a, 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 do-a.
With a patriotic edge.
We're making the bells of liberty ring by getting into that wonderful swing.
This gives it a lot of emotional resonance for me, even with a hint of the power embodied in something like the scene where the characters sing La Marseillaise in Casablanca. Though I can certainly understand the feeling that I've heard some Jem fans express for not being able to reconcile this imagery and message with the thought of celebrating America's activities in the modern day. But look, an awesome transition between the perspective of the bell and the end of the trombone. Now it's this sort of artistic flair that Jem videos at their best can provide. The scope of the performance is greater than just Jem and the four other Holograms this time, showing just how big the big band accompanying them is, and letting us see their craft and discipline up close, too. This depiction of old-timey dance moves is just so charming. We get Jem's happy hand movements, and then, of course, among the servicemen and their wives dancing in the ballroom, we have one woman in a red dress who gives the high kick to end all high kicks with no warning. A jolt to our senses that really sticks in my mind to the overall benefit of this song. Then, they stylize this dancing with the monochromatic backgrounds and silhouettes making up the red, white, and blue of America, and the UK and France, making a nice theme among the Allied powers. It particularly is, as far as I can surmise, a spiritual reference to the famed climactic ballet sequence in the Technicolor MGM musical An American in Paris from 1951, in which the characters played by Gene Kelly and Leslie Caron express their feelings for each other. This ballet is named for a classical piece by George Gershwin, who also composed Rhapsody in Blue in furtherance of the swing era, so some connection there.
Gershwin was a man of note, Glenn Miller led the band.
I at least get a similar vibe, maybe of nostalgia for this era of musicals among Jem's creative team. This re-release poster for that movie definitely does. Really, any way that you can bring Gene Kelly musical vibes into your song or video, big plus with me. But most of all, I love some of the particular enunciations, and how they give it both a sense of rhythm on top of the already snappy instrumental, and hearing the passion behind the vocals.
By getting into that wonderful swing.
By getting into that wonderful swing. Swing! Then we get the powerhouse final note, not quite as showy as the glittering gold final note. But still incredible. Making it happen.
Together we're making it happen.
Perfectly done amongst kindred spirits for an emotional high, and cheering from the audience. Unfortunately, right after that, the reality of the situation sets in, and they have to flee to shelters to avoid a bomber attack. The holograms are transported to another spot in time, mercifully, literal seconds before a massive chunk of debris stood to crush them. Possible content warning for near-death experiences and real deaths in war in the next part. In real life, the Miller Orchestra's position in London was indeed a huge bomb threat. They were initially stationed in Sloane Court in central London, in a building in which, had Miller not arranged for his orchestra's quarters to be relocated to the town of Bedford at the time that he did, would have left them the victims of a bomb attack which killed over 100 people. As a result of this, and presumably other occasions, the people around him saw the Miller luck as protecting them. Maybe the holograms have the Tiller luck behind them. Or maybe it's just that they're the main characters of this cartoon that won't let anything seriously bad happen to them. In the end, tragically though, during preparations to move the Miller Orchestra as a whole over to France, Miller himself disappeared while on a flight over the English Channel on December 15, 1944, under circumstances which have never been confirmed. He left behind his family and the many people in the armed services and in civilian life whom he'd entertained during such rough periods. Miller's orchestra is still performing with his namesake today, and he left many recorded performances which have inspired countless musicians to follow. It's a mark on history that the team behind Jem deservingly found worthy to depict in their Traveling Through Music History episode as a key stepping stone.
And while the Journey Through Time episode impressively stuffs many of these tenets into a 70-second song, Jem and the Holograms sadly didn't have the time or budget to really show off what makes big band performances special. I think that, along with the style's relatively niche appeal in the modern day, is what often relegates it to the middle of most fans' rankings. But that's why it being a favorite of Reina's is so interesting. We get to learn why it resonates so strongly with her and enjoy unique perspectives we may have never considered. And while that's unlikely to shift the song in our own personal rankings, it can evolve how we think about and appreciate it going forward. And that is one of the myriad wonderful things about music and art in general.
Overall, as a musical throwback, and with the benefit of explicitly overcoming the gendered expectations of the time on screen, some literal Jem revisionism for you with the time machine antics, it really works. It undoubtedly resulted in one of my favorite songs in the series, with great heart and emotional resonance for me. And I hope a few more people out there can see what I've seen it too, after hearing my thoughts. I'm glad I have the opportunity here as well to look more deeply into the origins of swing, as well as who should be given further credit culturally, and which artists to put on my playlist. So yet another reason why Jem's able to prove so meaningful, getting us to think about where the aspects we love about modern music came from. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe to my channel to catch several big videos in the works, and share them around to people that you know. And make sure that you do the same for Andrew Eisen's channel, checking out his many fun videos, including on Jem, as well as many podcasts and musical projects. I'm hugely appreciative to him for joining me on this. Thanks so much for watching, and stay truly outrageous.